Hello, our guest today is Mike Walsh, current selectman in the town of Milford, who is running for re-election in the April 2nd annual town election. Welcome, Michael.
Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for having me.
So it's time to ask you that hardest
Which
question
question?
we ask everybody.
Why are you running?
Why am I running? I always answer that question the same way. I answer it the way I did when I ran for the school committee for 9 years. I care about this community. I've been in this community over 30 years. I feel that I have a lot to offer to this community. I care about the citizens of this community and what goes on in this community, and that's why I'm running again for the Board of Selectmen. I want to truly work hard to make a difference for the citizens of this community.
What do you see as the issues over the next 3 years?
What's the biggest issues going on?
Well, what are the issues
What are
going
the
on?
issues?
The issues right now, and I talk about it all the time, the water company. The water company is an issue. It needs to be taken. It needs to be settled. It needs to be sold. You know, I am privy to information that will be honest with you, gentlemen, I can't talk about.
Right, but
I can tell you.
the DPU is going to come up with a decision by the end of the calendar year.
That's correct.
So hopefully that'll be resolved unless there's a lot of appeals.
Right, but things that I can talk about, and I talked about them the other night on Al's show, is that, for example, we've had a water ban in this community for years. There's 2 wells that are capped, not running. That's just one example of the mismanagement, and no disrespectful to the people that own the company. It's just a small example of you know what goes on, and you know once that we purchase it, it's going to be set up very much like the sewer department. We'll have we've already chosen the 3 commissioners, although they're not active right now, but we have chosen them.
Right.
But I use as an example, and I talk about this all the time. You call the Milford Water Company on a Friday night at 5 minutes to 5 with brown water, no water, or an odor in your water.
You get the answering machine.
You're going to get the answer machine, and you probably won't see anybody until Monday. My email and my cell phone number is on my website at the town hall,
Right.
I should say. I'm sorry. You call me. You call my cell phone number. I'm calling one of the water commissioners, and we're going to have somebody at your house. And one of those people will be me if I feel you're not getting the services you need.
Well, better yet, you could drive, if you know who they are, I suspect somebody with a bad enough complaint would drive to their house, knock on the door, and say, what are you going to do to fix it?
Yep. Well, the other day, for an example.
I know that happens with the sewer commissioners
Yep.
right now.
And I don't know if you saw it, but on Facebook, the town Facebook page, there was a woman in a neighborhood that had been talking about how she had you know, brown water,
Right.
Yep.
and odor in the water. So you
Right.
did see it. And you know, basically had somebody respond to it by saying, get a hold of the Board of Selectmen, you know, and let them get involved. Let them get involved. You know, even right now, even though the water company is still privately owned, I would get involved. I would pick up the phone and say, listen, this is unacceptable. This woman's been talking about it for a long time, and nobody's done anything about it.
And most people think it's a town department anyway. They don't get the fact it's a private company.
It's privately owned. It's privately owned. And you know, another great point to that is what comes up is some people have said to me, well, why would you purchase something that really isn't that profitable? Well, we don't know that. And the reason that we don't know that is because it's owned by R.H. White.
Right.
And I'm not afraid to go public and say this. If you look at the bidding process, okay, so you can't you can't compare apples to apples.
Well, I have to tell you one thing about that. One of my best friends works for one of the companies when they built the $26 million new treatment plant.
Mm-hmm.
He works for one of the companies that submitted a bid. And he called me when the bids were opened and they gave it to R.H. White. And he said to me, there is no way anybody can build that plant for that price.
Right.
They're going to build it up on change orders. And what happened? They built it up on change orders.
Right, right. And those are only small examples of why, you know, the town of Milford should control their water supply. And I speak about it all the time. Water is a resource. And maybe we're not going to see in our generation the benefits of owning the water company, but maybe our children will, or maybe our grandchildren will see the benefits of having our own water company.
What I think at the very least, you have 3 locally elected commissioners who are responsible for telling the people, this is how clean or not clean it is. This is the plan to fix it. This is where we're going to be in 30 or 40 years.
Yeah.
And you can unelect those people at any time.
Yeah, we in the town of Upton, we own our own water company, and we get a report with our bills on the water quality. I mean, I know personally that they check it on a weekly basis, and I can find out what the...
Well, that's actually the law.
Yeah,
Right.
and also, just as a point of reference, if you own your own water company, the state regulates that on certain times of the year you have to have water bans. They just because of the state regulations.
Right.
So even if we have much more water in Upton than we need, but we have regulations on restrictions on watering because of state regulations.
Okay, but Mike, after the water company,
What's next?
what do you see as other big issues? Certainly, you're about to have, we're taping this the second week of March, and the week after, you're about to have the first meeting of the police chief
I was
search
going to
committee.
say the second in my
Obviously,
opinion is the police chief.
You know, let's not get into the issue of the departure, but having a new chief is certainly a huge issue, and getting the right person in.
Absolutely, and it's going to be a national search. It's not a local search, it's a
Right.
national search. And as you just said, Kevin, we've set up the committee.
Right.
We have the bylaws.
You have the 12 members.
Yeah, we have the 12 members.
Very diverse committee. And by the
Very.
way, if anybody thinks that's a sandbag committee, just look at who's on it.
Yeah, it's
because
not.
the diversity on there
Right.
is incredible
Yeah, and it's all laid out, you know.
in the bylaw.
In the bylaw, who can sit on the committee.
But I mean, the people who were appointed though by the Board of Selectmen and the town moderator make it diverse beyond the people who are named. Like, you know, you as chairman of the Board of Selectmen, the chairman of the Finance Committee, the chairman of the Personnel Board, the police chief, a police union member. Those are fixed, but the other people were people who stepped forward and volunteered.
Yeah, absolutely, and if you remember, one of the selectmen meetings, we had only 4 people submit resumes to be on the
Right.
committee.
And you opened it up again.
And I said, you know what, let's just put it off. There's no need to rush. Let's put it off to the next selectmen's meeting and see if more people would
And they
apply. One did.
One did.
But we went with the original 4 that had applied.
But I
But
mean,
that's
it's a
the
diverse
second.
committee, it's a national search, but you know you're not going to have anybody in place by June 30th.
In my opinion, no. And that's my opinion. I'm one member out of 3.
And you haven't had a
but-
search committee yet, so.
Well,
Right,
there's
right.
But I mean, that's a huge issue is, it plainly, how do you get somebody of Tom O'Loughlin's caliber? I mean, I'll go on record to say, I've been a reporter in 3 different states for over 40 years, and he's probably the finest police chief I ever met anywhere, anytime. Al will disagree because he had a good chief in Upton. But
have a good chief in it.
okay, from my experience though, I'll say that out loud,
No, Tom's top drawer. There's no.
top drawer, how do you get somebody of his caliber to come?
Well, as just a point of reference, when I've gone through hiring a police chief, we've also sent them to do psychological tests and that kind of stuff. So the process of, even after you pick the person, the process of testing them and that kind of stuff is quite involved.
Visiting
also.
the cities or towns that they come
Yeah,
from?
there's-
I mean, it's a complicated process.
So you pick a guy from, say, California. That way, when you go to visit you can fly out to California.
Yeah. You know, I could go on all night long with examples of his leadership ability, but I'll give you an example.
Unfortunately, you know, in the interest of time, let's just make it a given. It's a loss to the town that he won't be here after that date.
If that happens, it will be, but I'll give you an example. He got 100% vote from his rank and file. That's unheard of.
Twice.
Unheard of. When Tom wanted to do away with civil service, I called him up and I made an appointment with him, and I sat with him. I said, why do you want to do away with civil service? And he said to me, well, Michael, it's very easy. He said, if I have an opening in my department, civil service tells me who is available from could be from Milford, but
Right.
chances are it's going to be for other communities. He said, when you develop a police department that truly believes in community policing, you need people that have grown up in the community, that want to serve the community.
And I would also say, today's day and age, multilingual people who can talk to the community.
Right. So the town decided to vote, they voted out of civil service. 2 or 3 months ago, we appointed 6 new police officers.
5 grew up in the town.
6 grew up in the town, 1 just moved over to Bellingham, over
that's
the
right.
town line.
That's right.
And what Tom said is, you want somebody that's going to respond to a situation that understands the situation. and he always says this to me when we talk. He says, Michael, it's very easy to pull somebody over. It's very easy to pull somebody out of a car and put handcuffs on them. But it's a lot harder to find out why they run the red light. Why were they speeding? Why were they driving erratically? Why have they got road rage? He said, that's community policing, because it could be divorce, loss of a child, could be angry at life, loss of a job.
And I'll even add why they're taking drugs, because as you know, with the effort, when there's an overdose, the counselor is sent right in with the policeman.
Right, right.
And it's not an arrest philosophy.
He said that's community policing, and that's what we have under his leadership.
Well, you have to assume, or you have to hope, that the committee that you've appointed and has volunteered will look for that element in their search.
I hope they do.
Well, I would guess
Well,
that.
16 years. He's been here 16 years, and what he's done with
17.
that department in 16 years.
Tremendous.
I was at a function last night, and a finance committee member walked up to me, questioning me about it, and said, "You know what's amazing to me?" He said he comes in every year, under budget, never asking for all kinds of things. He finds a way to work within his budget.
Right.
You know, he said, to me, that's just an amazing situation, being on the finance committee.
And the one time last year when the budget did increase majorly by a major factor for the tactical ops team, that was a request from your board to, we don't ever want a school shooting here. What would you do to prevent it? And then he came forward with it.
Yeah.
So,
It's not like he came and said, give me another $900,000.
so what's the third thing on the list?
Third thing is, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but the old saying, the white elephant in the corner is the high school.
Ah.
Yep.
Is the high school. And
Sooner or later,
it's, you know, it's not tomorrow, and it's not next year. We talked about it my last year on the school committee. I know they're talking about it, you know, now. Might be 7 years down the road, but we got to start talking about it now.
and then it's, do you reno or do you build new?
Exactly. And so, as I said the other night, we just spent all that money on that brand new football, lacrosse, soccer field. We just built a new girls' softball fields, new concession stand, new restrooms. Well, I don't think we're going to walk away from that.
So you're not going to dig those up.
Right.
You're not going to do a woodland and build a new school next to the old one.
Exactly. So now what we got to look at, what are our choices? Do we go into a renovation? And if we renovate,
Where do you put
Where
the
do you
kids?
put the kids?
there you go.
Well,
Exactly.
maybe they shouldn't have gotten rid of the Middle East.
Well,
Yeah.
here's a dilemma with that. Grafton took that approach some years back. They renovated their school, so they did half the school for a while, and they moved everybody to the other half. And the teachers that I talked to when that happened said it was really a nightmare.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean,
it
I
would be.
remember Uxbridge doing double sessions when they built new schools, and basically they took the one school and they put its population into another school and did double sessions. So kids were starting at 6 and going to like 2, and then 2 to 8 or whatever in a school building.
But it's you know, it's a big concern to the community, and it's going to have to be addressed. And don't get me wrong, Rob Quinn has done a phenomenal job
And it's going
taking
to be
care
a
of
lot
these.
more than Woodland ever cost.
Tell me about it.
Franklin High School was 125 million. 125 million.
and
Newton North was 160. So right there, you can say to yourself, you know it's going to go
Well,
north
I
of
look
125.
at the ones being built around the state, and they're all north of 200.
Yes.
Yeah.
And by the way, people need to know, that's not the town building luxury. That's the State School Assistance Bureau telling you what you have to build
Right.
and dictating the price range.
Having gone through it in Upton and Mendon Regional when I was on the school committee there, they come in and say, okay, the classrooms have to be such and such, so wide, so long. They have to accommodate so many kids.
I mean, let's face it, with Woodland, they're the ones who said 3 floors.
Right.
And this grade here and that grade there and this and that.
But I will say one thing that I don't understand from the state level, and I openly talk about this all the time, is that when we were building Woodland, and I was, at the time, I was not chairman yet.
Well, you were on the school committee.
I was on the school committee, and I can remember Bob Tremblay making a statement one night in a meeting that it was built to max.
Yes.
And I looked at him, I said, Bob, what do you mean it's built to max? He goes, well, it's a school built to 1,198 students.
They will
and
not, the
it
state
has
will
1,100
not let you build for the
has
future.
1,195. And I said to Bob, that's ridiculous. Let's build it for 1,400 students.
can't.
He says, you can't. I said, what do you mean you can't?
They won't reimburse
He
you.
says, we won't get reimbursed from the state. Now, that makes no sense.
Well, there's a workaround. The workaround is you build the school for whatever, but you leave a footprint that allows you to expand. And that's what we did in Upton, we built the school for a certain size, but we left enough room on both ends to expand another 2 classrooms on either side for the school.
And actually, the expansion was left off at the time to bring the cost down to make it palatable to the 2 towns to pay for it.
And the other thing that in education that people have to understand, like if somebody of our generation went into the Woodland School and saw the technology, saw the atrium classrooms where you can take the children, it's almost like a miniature college classroom.
Right.
Or you saw the areas outside the classrooms with the padded benches where they can just go out. Education has changed. And what's driving education today is technology. You go in, the children don't sit like back in our day, all lined up on desks.
Right.
The children are in quads, but most of the classrooms that you go into, you'll find the teacher working on the whiteboard with the children around them.
Yeah.
Education has changed, and we need to change with the change.
But I'll also
Right.
say, though, that as you know, from the workforce, what they're experiencing in the elementary level is what the workforce has today.
Right.
You've got a computer in front. I visited you at work.
Yeah.
You have a computer in front of you all day.
2 of them running all the time, all
Running
day long.
Running all the time.
Yeah.
This guy's got a whole office wing full of computers running a newspaper. I've got 2 computers up and running in my house at all times.
Yeah.
Well, 2 screens and 1 computer.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, Kevin, that technology has impacted our lives so much that when I leave Imperial for a meeting, I can actually run the service departments from my iPhone.
Right.
Right.
They communicate with me. I email back. I get messages from customers. I email them back because everybody's on email or texting.
I sit in meetings today and somebody says, let's all try to schedule a meeting. And everybody, whether it's their Android or their iPhone, everybody pulls up. And within 3 seconds, you've got an answer.
Right.
Or if everybody worked in a company, they used to poll people and get it that way. But I mean, society has changed. I look at what my kids do for a career. I mean, I have one kid who's an IT network security expert. I have another kid who works for the Geek Squad in Best Buy, basically helping people who don't know how to use technology.
Right.
And I've got another one who's a computer, when he graduates from college in May, is a computer animation specialist. And by the way, that job pays very well.
Yeah.
Based on the part-time work he's getting.
Yep.
No, technology is driven, I mean, it's really been amazing.
And it's driving the town hall. Let's look at the town hall. I mean, you didn't have an IT director in that town hall 5 years ago. You've got one at tomorrow night's meeting. You're replacing the assistant who left.
Yeah.
Because you need that. But the assessors all run on a computer program. All the finances run on a computer program. Your HR person used to work for a company where all the vacation and sick leave time was run on a giant computer program.
You can even walk in the door and pay your taxes by credit card.
Yeah.
On a computer.
So it's what's the 4th thing? Now we talked about.
There's a couple. I think that I would say the downtown revitalization committee.
That's going well.
Going very, very well. I think that
a lot
of people were upset about the sale of the former St. Mary's Catholic High School.
Wait a year.
Well, yeah, wait a year, but I've walked through it 2 or 3 times, and it was really needed to be done. But more importantly, when that building is renovated, that'll be, in my opinion, the first phase of the revitalization of downtown Milford, because the people that go in there are going to be able to walk to the churches, walk to the stores, walk to town hall, walk up to the center of town, and that'll be the start of it. But you've got the committee, Ronnie Pagnini and Paul Malnati, and
Josh Leoch.
Josh Leoch, involved in it, and they're all pushing.
And they're running with it.
And they are.
What
they've
accomplished in about a year and a half is incredible. They've been in business about 2 years, and you got to think of what they've accomplished.
A lot.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And
more to come. I understand somebody has bought one of the vacant buildings on Main Street, and they don't really want to announce their plans. But I understand what's coming will thrill people.
Right. And if you remember, 2 years ago when the Secretary of Commerce was in Milford, he made a statement and he said, the downfall of downtown America was malls.
Yes.
Yes.
And the downfall of malls is something called e-commerce.
Yes.
Right.
It's time for the town of Milford to take control and revitalize their downtown, make it attractive, make it so people want to go there, people want to open businesses.
People want to live there. People want to live close.
Well, it's
I tell
interesting,
people all
the
the
grant
time.
that they just got
will help.
was to say, well, basically, in order to approve the middle school / St. Mary's High School for housing, they did what I would call a rapid zoning amendment to basically get that building going so he could buy it and fix it. You got a $15,000 grant now to do a comprehensive study on not what people think is turn downtown into a slum with 42 people to an apartment, which is what you heard the last time around.
Right.
But how have the most successful downtowns in the state gotten people in? How did the zoning work, the parking work? That's the study that's going to be done that I think will open some people's eyes.
Well, I think what's interesting too, and I apologize, Al, if you look at, and I say this, the traffic light at Sacred Heart Church is, in my opinion, the gateway.
Yes.
So you've got Sacred Heart Church on your left-hand side, which is totally, totally renovated outside and inside. And if you haven't been in, you have to go in. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's gorgeous. The group that's working on Calzone Park and Draper Park,
Right.
we know that Draper Park is really a maintenance type project.
Right.
It's in
Right.
good shape. It's just the sprinkler system needs some work. The trees need some work.
Right. Before you jump
Calzone-
up that far, across from Calzone, you have Al's Rotary Group.
who
is
did all the
redoing
trees.
Municipal
Right.
Park.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, and so we know that Calzone is going to be a redo. But so now you come, once that, if you get that project done, so now you got Sacred Heart, Calzone Park, you're going to come up, you got the building that
got
Kevin
the-
just finished, the architect's
Well,
building.
you got first you got the dentist complex,
Yeah,
then you have the trail, then you have the Dunkin' Donuts is relatively new.
yeah.
Then you have the old No Free Law office, which I remember as a print shop.
Yeah, but now it's,
Is now a gorgeous Henry Arnoto's architecture
Right.
office.
Then
Then you're
you'll-
going to have the Middle East.
Correct. And it just, it'll
And that's
just
the
rolls
gateway
right
to
in.
downtown.
It'll
Right.
just go take you right up into downtown, right
well,
into downtown.
Hudson has done some really tremendous things there downtown there. They
Hudson
bring-
and Marlboro.
That's actually the model they're looking at.
And so I think the future, generally speaking, in Milford is a very positive one, because if you can get people to understand that upgrading and living facilities above the first floor in downtown will bring residents in.
Well, plus the cost, people don't realize, the cost of bringing those old buildings up to code, of putting in elevators, means you're not going to get $500 a month flop houses. You're going to get $1,800 a month, $2,000 a month, high quality apartments for people who maybe don't want to buy a
Yeah, and I
house.
talk about this all the time, the 3 apartment complexes that are, basically trying to get into Milford.
The
they're all-
340Bs, yeah.
Right. 25% of the apartments are 40B. They're 350 units apiece.
Yeah,
The one that's going to go by where the casino was going to go,
Yeah.
from Route 85 to the roof is 490 feet in the air.
yep.
All the upper apartments are glass all the way around because you're looking out on the far.
And you're going to be
And
coming
you-
down 495 and look right through their windows.
And you think that they're going to get $1,000 a month for rent for those?
Well, that's the thing that people really don't realize, and I've had this argument in Upton, and I've had it on a continuous basis, because we have some property there that they want to renovate. I said, if you bring somebody in, any of the quality builders, construction people, they're not going to build junk.
No.
Because what they make is driven by what they build. So they want to build something that's going to bring in a good return. So they're not going to build junk. They're going to build high-end stuff.
And basically,
that draws people.
you know who the builder is by reputation.
Yeah,
Right,
and
well-
the gentleman that's looking at the one where the casino's going to go, or that's his project, he and I had a conversation one night. He's been doing it for 30 years.
I've gone to look at his other projects.
And he said the trend every year in the United States, more and more and more, is that people don't want to own homes. They don't want to cut grass. They don't want to trim shrubs.
It's
They don't
true.
want to shovel snow. And he said, in a lot of cases, in some cases, the rent might be as high as $2,500 a month. They budget to it. They budget to it. They
Right.
learn to live with it, just like a car payment.
But
They
it's no
budget to it.
different than living in a condo development and paying a $400 a month homeowner's fee.
Right.
Only here, you got elevators, you got your exercise club built in. I mean,
Conference rooms.
Well, think about it for a second. If you buy a $500,000, $600,000 home, your house payment is going to be $3,000 or $4,000 a
Right,
month.
right. They
And
want
then
to
what
come
do you
home on
do?
a Friday night,
And-
click.
and
Right.
what do you do? Candidly, what do you do for people who can afford the $500,000 and $600,000 and $700,000 homes when your kids are all grown up and you're sitting there? Nobody wants to clean and maintain the 4.5 bedroom, 3-car garage.
Tell me about it.
Super thing. So what they're going to do is, if you get a brand new apartment and it's $2,000 a month or $3,000 a month, that's nothing to them.
I say this all the time, Kevin. The mid '80s to the late '80s, I was looking at a home on Woodridge Road, and I looked at it 3 times. and I came that close. And I can remember the third time standing on the sidewalk looking at it and saying to myself, your kids will probably be gone in 5 years. What are you going to do with it? And thank God I didn't, because right now with my life situation, the house I'm in is perfect.
I'll give you a better example. I mean, when we had 3 kids in their early teens, my wife and I were talking about blowing off the second floor over the garage, making a bigger master bedroom, doing this, and we got cost estimates. I looked at her one day, I said, do you realize that in 6 years, they'll all be out of high school? We're not going to need any of this.
Right.
Why would we spend $100,000 doing this that we'll never get back?
Right.
Why not put the $100,000 in the bank to pay for college?
Right.
I mean, the long and short of it is that in my case, we added on a 1,000 square foot apartment, which worked out just fine because that's where we moved our office to. So that's worked out. But believe me, I'd like to downsize in the worst way.
Everybody does.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's number 4. What's number 5?
Number 5.
I'm going to give you some tough ones here.
No, we only got a couple of minutes left.
That's
so.
okay. I spoke about it the other night. There's a couple. I'll give you an example. Everybody talks about traffic in Milford. Well, what are we going to do? I mean, you got Route 16. You know, years ago when I came to town, everybody talked about the bypass road. Well, that's the bike path. So that's not going to happen.
Yes and no. There's still sections open.
You know, if you go down Milford, say down 85 in the morning, down Diller Street, and head up West Fountain Street, everybody from that area of town is coming down West Fountain Street to get to Diller Street to get to 495. I drive to Mendon every morning, as you gentlemen know.
So you're going the reverse direction.
I go through the traffic light at Cumberland Farms and Hopedale. There's mornings where the traffic goes all the way up the hill and down beyond the drive.
The drive-in in Mendon.
In Mendon. That traffic's all coming down Route 16 to get to 109 or 495.
And by the way, Mike, at night, everybody that lives in Mendon, as I do, knows on a Friday night, the traffic lights at the top of the hill in Mendon, that traffic is backed all the way back to Milford Hospital.
Right.
And the Hopedale intersection, you're getting the Milford Hospital light intersection fixed.
Yeah.
The next bottleneck is the Hopedale light where the Cumberland Farms is, and the next one is the top of the hill in Mendon.
Yeah.
And you got a choke point.
And, you know, Al, who knows what the fix is, but it's a concern. But another big concern to me, is the old Archer Rubber property.
Oh, yeah.
It's an eyesore.
Let's remind everybody right now, because everybody keeps saying, why does the town do something? The town doesn't own it.
We don't own it.
And it's a hazardous waste site.
Yes, and when you talk to, and I use this as an example, you go to the senior center and you meet some of the seniors that grew up in that neighborhood.
Who worked there.
Or played in the backyards, and they said you could tell what they were making that day by the color of the water.
Yeah, the color of the Charles River.
We had the same problem in Upton at the Fat Hat Factory. The dilemma is that the guy who owns it is going to have to spend a lot of money to cap it.
I hate to cut you off on that subject. We got about 10 seconds left. Mike, last call. Why should people vote for you?
Again, I'm going to go back to I care greatly about this community. I feel that I have a lot to offer this community. You'll see Friday in my ad, I make a very clear statement. I don't criticize from the sidelines. I get involved to find solutions for the citizens of this community. Anybody that reaches out to me, I'm always there. I try to do the best to help them, and that's why I would ask for their vote on April 2nd to re-elect me to the Board of Selectmen.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you very much.